It's been kind of a crazy week out there in the recruiting world, if you couldn't tell. First, the big news, as everybody knows by now, the big dog, Vince Marrow, has come back to Louisville from Kentucky. Talked to some guys about that online before, but don't know how much you're going to see that impact the 26 class right away. But definitely keep your eyes out for the upcoming portal season and the 27 class and beyond. As everybody knows, man, in recruiting, it's all about relationships and NIL right now. So Marrow has a lot of relationships with the guys that Kentucky's been recruiting. Coming to Louisville, it's going to take him a little bit of time to build that relationship up to get kids to Louisville. But fully expect you're going to see the portal class and the 27 class and beyond. You're going to see some studs end up here at the Cards. So it's a big get. Secondly, we also saw some decommitments this week on the D line from the Cards between Damonte Hogan, Josiah Hope, and Jamarcus Weiss, the latter of the two who committed after their official visit weekend. Hogan had visited IU and then decommitted and committed to IU. So I think that's just kind of a thing that's going to happen. You know, you see guys who are committed places go on visits elsewhere and decommit. It's happened with guys that committed elsewhere and come to Louisville and flip their commitment to Louisville. The other two, Jamarcus Weiss and Josiah Hope. There's a lot of rumors going around out there. I've heard some things. I'm not 100% sure on what happened there, so I don't want to comment on it and be wrong. I do know they're both still considering Louisville, but right now Purdue looks like the likely landing spot for both of those guys. I hate to see them go. I think Josiah Hope and Jamarcus Weiss are both going to be studs at the college level, and I would definitely love to have them here as Cards. But again, that is the recruiting world that we live in now. So anyway, getting off that, let's go on to some updates here. Louisville landed a commitment this week from a 3-star interior offensive lineman named Crew Mulder out of Gainesville, Georgia. Kind of an under-the-radar prospect. Doesn't really do a lot of camps. He's been recruited off of his high school tape in his high school season. Louisville was his best offer. He had offers from East Tennessee State, Navy, Southern Miss, and it looks like Troy and Western Kentucky kind of were his top schools. Very much under the radar prospect. You probably won't see the field for at least 1 or 2 years. Get him in the weight room, get him developed in. 6'3", 280 though is pretty big for a high school kid. Hopefully he can develop his skills once he gets to Louisville and gets in the weight room and adds some weight. But if he can add 20 or 30 pounds of muscle and get his feet worked down and things like that, he could be a solid 2-deep piece going forward for the Cards. So really like that pickup for a depth piece. Moving on to the weekend visits that are going on right now for the Cards. You've got 3 guys on campus this weekend. The big one, of course, the big fish there being the 4-star, 15th overall edge in the class, 150th best player in the nation, Ashari Charles out of Venice, Florida. We've talked about him before on the program. Dude is just a stud. No way around that. He's the big fish right now for the Cards. It still seems likely it's down to about 5 schools here: Miami, Kentucky, Louisville, Missouri, and Florida State. Now, he visits Miami next week. He's from South Florida. I still contend it's going to be hard to pull him from Miami, but with that said, I do know he really enjoyed his visit this weekend to the Ville, and I know he had a good time in Missouri. He's visiting Kentucky, I believe, tomorrow before he goes back to Florida, so I'm not sure where they're sitting at right now with him. And then he has a visit lined up for later in August at Florida State. So if you ask me today, I say it's going to come down to probably the 2 Florida schools, and then either Louisville or Missouri will be that 3rd school there. I don't see Kentucky really probably getting him unless something crazy happens, but hopefully the Cards can close in on him and get him in the red and the black. But again, big visit there for Ashari. So also on campus this weekend was the offensive tackle out of Valdosta, Georgia, 6'5", 270-pound Benjamin Corky, I believe is how you say his last name. Recruitment just started to pick up for him. Cards just offered. He's on campus this weekend. Like with Charlie Edgeworth that we talked about, who visited last weekend, I think this is going to come down to 3 schools for his recruitment between Louisville, Kentucky, and South Florida. A 3-star prospect. Talked to him a little bit about it. He loves Louisville, is what he told me. He loves the staff, loves the fans. So we'll see what happens on that one. I expect them to keep recruiting him pretty hard. Also on campus this weekend, a guy that I like a lot as a defensive back prospect, who I think could blow up if he gets into college and gets in the right program, is a guy named Chris Brunson out of Snellville, Georgia. Again, another taller DB that we've been talking about before that Louisville's recruiting. 6'2", 180, good size, good weight for a defensive back. Watch his game film if you haven't. Dude has a legit game film, man. His huddle highlights, he's got fluid hips, he's quick, good ball skills, and he can hit like a Mack truck. A little bit underrated, overall 86 ranking from 247. This one, a lot of ACC schools in the mix for this, and I expect he's probably going to end up in the ACC. Virginia, Louisville, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Colorado State, and Mississippi State are all his top schools right now. Let me see here. I believe he's visited Louisville along with Colorado State, Virginia, and Mississippi State. And I know he's working on getting a Clemson visit lined up and a Virginia Tech visit. So ask me today, I'd say Louisville's right in the mix with him, but I think Clemson's going to be a sneaky school here to watch for him. And I just think he continue with a good senior year for him. He's going to continue to go up in the rankings before it's all said and done and signing day gets here. Wouldn't be surprised to see him as like a high 3, maybe a low end 4-star type of player, but hopefully the Cards can keep up on him and get him in, because again, I think he's going to blossom in college and be a real good player. All right, so those are the guys on campus this week for the Cards. Let's go through and look at a couple of guys they've been recruiting, get some updates on. Again, talked about him a second ago, the offensive tackle for Briggs Cherry out of Chattanooga, out of the Baylor School, 6'7", 325 pounds, Charlie Edgeworth. Visited both Louisville, Kentucky, the end of May, beginning of June, and again, everything I've heard, he's going to take some time to talk with his family. He should be committing sometime before the season starts this fall for the Baylor School. All signs still pointing towards a Louisville-Kentucky battle here. I like where Louisville sits. I know he really came away impressed with the Ville, with the coaching staff, with the program, with the facilities, everything. He was up here on his visit. So I definitely think that Louisville has a good chance of landing a commitment from him before it's all said and done. And I really like this guy. I think he's going to get into college, turn a little bit of that baby fat that he's got on him into muscle, and he's going to be a monster of an offensive tackle, kind of like we had with like Mekhi Becton when he was here, or if you're going to go back to like Jammin Brown. Dude's big, can't teach that, can't teach size, as they say. And if we can get some muscle on him, get him up to about 6'7", 6'8", 330 pounds or so, he's gonna be a legit offensive tackle in college. Another guy the Cards are recruiting that recruitment's kind of been a mystery. You haven't really heard a lot about him, but I know Louisville's right in there with him again, is the local kid out of Manual, David Pellman. Hasn't really had any visits lined up, which I don't know if he's going to wait until the fall to take visits or what's going on there, but everything I've heard and continue to hear is still Louisville, Kentucky, Florida, and the new school that's entered the mix for him is Miami. They offered him about a month ago or so, and I know he is really looking hard at Miami and Florida, along with Kentucky and Louisville. So I think those 4 schools are going to be kind of the schools you see pull ahead in the recruitment for him. I'm not sure when he's going to commit or what his plans are, but definitely being local, hopefully Louisville can get him locked up here, because I think at 6'3", 290 pounds, he could be a force inside on the line for the Cards. Another guy that's going to be visiting Louisville later this month, Aiden McMillan out of Holy Trinity in Melbourne, Florida, listed at 5'11", 180. He's listed as an athlete on 247. Got offers from a lot of different schools. He played wide receiver and DB, caught 46 passes for 933 yards and 7 touchdowns in 9 games last year for them. Defensively, he had 33 tackles, 5 interceptions, and 5 pass breakups. I think you look at him as a more receiver in college, kind of like a slot guy. Offers from Louisville, offers from Florida State. Let's see here. Penn State, Pittsburgh, and then some smaller schools in the mix there with him. The only visit he has lined up right now is Louisville, so that's a good sign. Really like Louisville's chances here with him if they can get him on campus and he enjoys the visit. I would look probably for a commitment to come pretty quickly after that, but we shall see. Kind of the thing holding that up, and I think what's going to be the playing factor in that is a guy named DJ Williams for the Cards that he visited the first visit weekend back in May. He's a 6'2", 170-pound athlete out of Tampa, Carrollwood Day High School. Again, listed as an athlete. He is going to play receiver in college. He's visited Louisville and Ole Miss. Has been his 2 schools, and Missouri is in there as well, but he doesn't have a visit lined up to Missouri currently. He is committing here, I believe, later this month or early in July. Louisville and Ole Miss seem to be the top 2 schools for him. And the reason I say kind of the playing factor in this with him and McMillan is if DJ Williams commits to Louisville, I would expect McMillan to look elsewhere, because they both are going to be kind of the same player when they come in. They'll both be kind of the same type of player when they come in. They're listed as athletes right now, but they will both play receiver. So if Louisville lands DJ Williams, I would expect McMillan probably to look elsewhere, just because there won't be room for him. So we'll see what happens when that one, how that one goes. Another name to watch out for the Cards, who is also visiting next weekend, is a guy out of Hillgrove High School in Powder Springs, Georgia, 6'4", 215-pound edge prospect, Chris Carman. Final schools are Georgia Tech, Louisville, Baylor, Mississippi State, Virginia Tech. He has visited Georgia Tech, Baylor, Mississippi State, and Georgia Tech seems to be the front runner for him right now. Louisville jumped into his recruitment pretty heavy and pretty hard after the 3 decommitments in the past week, and they got him lined up for a visit. Not sure where they stand on this guy. I fully expect Georgia Tech probably to land his commitment, but that said, he is committing on July 4th, so here in a few weeks, and Louisville gets the last crack at him on the 20th before his commitments. If Louisville can somehow sway him, and he has a heck of a visit here and likes what he sees. Louisville could jump in there, but right now all signs are pointing for him going to Georgia Tech. Another guy to keep an eye out for the Cards. He also plays at the Baylor School out of Chattanooga with Briggs Cherry and Charlie Edgeworth. Defensive back, 6 foot, 175 pounds. Theodore. Now, he has a very heavy list of offers here. Louisville, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and Kentucky are the final four for him, and he has visited all but Louisville. Really like his game. If you watch his highlight tape, a heck of a hitter, like we said with other guys. He's also very quick. Once he gets if he gets beat, he has the speed ability to chase down the wide receiver. He has good ball skills, and he also played a lot of wide receiver last season. I believe they're projecting him to be a DB in college, but that could change as well. And I know he really likes Louisville. He wants to get up here and see what all's going on with the Bill. So this is one to keep an eye on as well. I think if he has a good visit, you could see him commit as well to the Cards. Here. Go back here and talk about two more guys that visited last weekend. Safety out of Armwood High School in Steffner, Florida. 6'1", 200-pound Damonte Timms, former Missouri commit who decommitted and visited the Ville. He right now is on a visit, I believe, to Georgia, or has one lined up for this weekend. Really like Louisville's chances here with him. Final three looks like Georgia, Louisville, Miami, with Colorado really pushing hard for him recently, and Dion trying to get in there. But this dude, if you watch his game film, he's listed as a 3-star on almost all the sites, but he plays more like a 4-star type of player. If you watch his tape, he's all over the field, plays the ball well. I mean, he can hit, he can pick off the quarterback. Dude's just an all-around his game film. He's a stud. Now, see, I think Louisville's going to push really hard for him now. I don't know if we talked about it or not, but the big kind of other news story was that Louisville was recruiting pretty heavily a guy named Aiden McMillan. He was listed in Louisville as a visit and had Louisville in his final schools. He is now down to 2 schools, and the Ville did not make the cut. It is now down to Missouri and Minnesota for him, with Missouri looking like the likely destination for McMillan. Once that happened, I think the staff has now really turned their attention to Timms being kind of their go-to in the safeties position for their class. So I would definitely keep an eye on him. I think he could end up, if you had to ask me today, I'd say Georgia and Louisville probably neck and neck, and then Miami's right there. But I definitely keep an eye out for him. I think he could commit here probably before the end of the summer, and hopefully it will be the Louisville Cardinals that he picks. Other guy we can talk about that visited also last weekend, a 3-star prospect out of Peachtree Ridge, out of Shawnee, Georgia, 5'11", 190, safety Tristan Hill. Kind of an under-the-radar guy. His recruitment just started to take off here about the last month or so. He has a Final Four list of Duke, NC State, Louisville, Minnesota. He visits, I believe, Duke this upcoming weekend. It was just at NC State. Like his game a lot. Highlight film a little kind of sparse. Kind of plays almost, I would say, kind of like a Calvin Pryor type player that Louisville had. Just not quite as hard of a hitting DB as Pryor was, but still a great prospect. I believe if he ends up wherever he goes, he's probably going to move outside to play DB and play a cornerback more so than a safety when he gets in college. But still, he can stuff the run. I mean, he's a good prospect. When Louisville's right there, I would say you're looking at a Louisville NC State battle, most likely. Maybe Duke in there, but definitely think it's going to be interesting to watch his recruitment going forward for the Cards. Let's see here. As I talked about, I did lose a few commitments earlier this week. I'd expect for some new names to pop up for Louisville as well. With Vince Marrow in here, like we said, you're not going to see instant, 4 or 5-star guys starting to commit to Louisville, but I would expect some new names to come up on the list. A couple of guys I've heard talked about. I'll go through real quick. Let's see here. One of them is either going to be a tight end or a receiver once he gets to college, and that is a guy out of Atlanta, the Episcopal School, 6'7", 200 pounds. They have him listed as a tight end right now on 247, 3-star. Excuse me. Khalil Worthy. I know Kentucky was recruiting him very heavily when Marrow was there, and I would definitely think that if Louisville were to miss out on a couple of guys or something happens, I would look for him to get some push now. Real big offers, Louisville, NC State, Syracuse, and he's got Marshall, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, things like that. Kind of a new recruitment. Like I said, he doesn't really do camps, I guess is the best way to put it. He just plays high school ball. So that's kind of why his recruitment's still a little bit underknown. Another guy to keep an eye on that we didn't talk about, that he actually moved his visit. Julius Miles, listed as a tight end receiver out of Florida, out of Freeport, 6'6", 210. He was going to visit this weekend. He's pushed it back now to this upcoming weekend. So he still will be at Louisville. TF, Florida State, and Louisville seem to be the top 3 schools for him. I'm not sure. Honestly, Louisville's going to get him out of the Sunshine State. I think he's going to go to Florida State or UCF. But with that said, heck of a highlight, multi-sport athlete, plays basketball. He's actually a three-sport athlete, basketball, track and field, and football. Dude can jump out of the gym. Being 6'6", he can jump. I mean, that's something you don't see a lot. So I think his recruitment will kind of play a lot in whether or not Louisville goes after Worthy that we talked about. If they miss on Miles, I think they'll turn their attention to Worthy. Let's see here. Another name to watch for Louisville on the defensive line. And I know it's going to be a tough battle out of Fort Myers. Defensive lineman, 4-star Kendall Gravel, I believe is how you say his last name. Louisville was in on him pretty heavy. He listed Louisville in his final 10. He's down to 4 right now. It's Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Florida State. I would definitely think, and what I've heard is that Vince Marrow, this is kind of his go-to guy that he's going to look for to try to get him to at least visit Louisville and consider Louisville. Now, whether that happens, I don't know, but he's a legit defensive line prospect, 6'5", 315. I mean, he's a stud. You can go watch his game film. This dude is all over the field. He's always in the backfield off every snap. I mean, he's a very good player. Whether or not he'll come visit Louisville again, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air right now. I know Vince Marrow recruited him pretty heavily at Kentucky. We'll see what happens going forward here, but keep an eye on him. And then let's see what else we got here. Another name to keep an eye on for Louisville if they kind of swing and miss on some of their DB prospects that are visiting. It's a guy out of Mississippi. Is Iverson McCoy. He's out of Tupelo, 6'1", 180-pound DB, 4-star prospect across the board. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Louisville, and UNLV are his final schools. So kind of a weird mix there. You can figure being from Mississippi, you'd have both Mississippi schools, Ole Miss, Mississippi State in there. Louisville is working on trying to get a visit lined up with him, and then he's a surprise there, UNLV. Love his game film. Like we said before, very fluid hips, quickness. He plays mainly outside DB cornerback, more so than he does inside and safety, but he can reject at either position in college. Very good at locking down receivers. You don't see him. He went up against, I know everybody knows about Tristan Keys, the 5-star guy out of Mississippi that's committed right now to LSU. This guy's high school plays them every year. They're in the same conference down there, same division. He locked Tristan Keys up and only let him have, I believe, 2 catches for 40-something yards when they played them last. So figure this guy, 4-star DB, locks up a 5-star number, top 5 player in the nation and only allows two or three catches. That's pretty good. So keep an eye on him. If Louisville can get him on campus, I think they can probably be there at the end along with Mississippi State and Ole Miss. But it's going to be hard to pull him out of Mississippi, honestly. I think he's going to end up at one of the 2 Mississippi schools. But with Vince Marrow here now, like I said, something to keep an eye on. Like we talked about before, I don't think you'll see a lot of changeover really in this class with Marrow being here. I think you're going to see it more so in the 27 class going forward. I'll do another video later on, kind of talk about some guys to watch in that class right now that Louisville's in on and that Vince Marrow is starting to kind of turn his attention to for the Cards. But either way, definitely think that recruiting is going to skyrocket here with Vince Marrow and what Louisville has going on currently. You look at what they've done so far just out of this class with the increase in IL budget, and now you add that in with Vince Marrow. I think the sky's kind of the limit. I don't know if you'll see, you're not going to see top 10 classes here, but should definitely be able to see top 25, top 30-ish classes, top 20 classes going forward. So hopefully we'll see that, and I think they need to go well for the Cards.